Folks, I know it's 7 o'clock. We're going to give it just a couple more minutes and see if we pick up a few more folks just so we can get started. We definitely have all the presenters here, so that's good. Thank you. All right, without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to thank you folks that have come tonight. Appreciate that. We are live streaming this so that we can pick it up later and be able to broadcast it so people can see what they've missed, and it's a great show, I'm telling you. So, and those of you that came out to help, I greatly appreciate you as well. So, I'm Larry. I'm with the Cowlitz County Department of Emergency Management. As of the 16th, I became the director. Scott Neves in the back is my cohort. He is our outreach coordinator. And then we have a whole group of people here that, let's see, I want to introduce Mark Titus, our guest speaker from the Department of Natural Resources, and he stepped out. He's right there. Oh, sorry. And Josh Moeller with the Department of Natural Resources. We've got Casey Kalau and Alice Dietz with the PUD. I've got Russ Casper and Jennifer Mendoza with the Master Gardeners. John Dunaway, Longview Fire Marshal. I have Mike Wilson, the Cowlitz County Fire Marshal. And I have the crew featuring the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Fisher. And I didn't see who was with you. Oh, Stu Hodna. Sorry, Stu. I was going to introduce you as Stu and the gang. So, but anyway, who did I miss? Anybody? Thank you all for coming tonight. So I think that this is a really important subject. My background is I did 32 years in the fire service, 8 volunteer, and then 24 career. And one of the things in the fire department that we did was we branched out and not only did fire and medical, but we started wildfire on the west side of Washington State. We worked closely with the Department of Natural Resources and the National Forest Service to develop those skills. And that's a good thing, but it also leads to moments like I've had. As you noticed, the focus of this is the West Longview Hills. And it's not because there aren't other places. We just needed to pick an area to describe to you. And because I drive that way every night, I had some concerns over the last 3 years. And as you have seen, we've had more and more wildfires. They've been bigger. They've been closer. An hour south of us, we had the Nakia Creek fire in Clark County. We had the Kalama fire in Cowlitz County. We had the Big Hollow fire just in Skamania County, right on the Clark and Cowlitz border. And then up north, just north of us, we had a fire up on the pass. So, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And the reason we wanted to do this in February originally and now is because this is the kind of thing that emergency management goes out and we try to help you to prepare. That's one of our major things is to help folks prepare, because when the fire's coming, it's too late. It's too late to start pruning trees, moving firewood stacks, things of that nature that we're going to be talking about tonight. So we wanted to bring together this group of people that are experts, or SMEs, if you will, and talk about their fields of experts. Those are subject matter experts. So this is us. If you ever need to contact us, here's our information. Scott's and my cards are out back, and afterwards you'll have an opportunity to talk to any of the folks that are here tonight. Whoops. There we go. So I was tasked by the CASPIC, which is the Cowlitz Association of Sheriff and Police Chiefs, to develop an evacuation plan for Cowlitz County. So together with the fire chiefs of Cowlitz County, we selected Ready, Set, Go. Ready, Set, Go is a national program that is been utilized throughout the country in different areas. It's not the unified program, but to me it makes more sense. And this all came because of the Big Hollow fire. we had a lot of panicked people from throughout Cowlitz County, as far away as Riderwood, calling us, asking us, oh my goodness, they had just issued a level 1 evacuation. Does that mean we have to leave? And so we thought, So there's a type 1 incident command team and a type 2 incident, but then there's level 1 evacuation, level 2. It didn't explain itself. And I don't know about you folks, but I remember in grade school, my teacher saying, ready, set, go. And I knew what all of those meant. And so we were trying to come up with some common language that people understood, and here was this program already out there. So we took a good look at Ready, Set, Go, and what we did is we took Ready and we split it into 2 pieces. Because Ready on the national program is also your prepare portion, we split those 2 out. And why we did that is because the prepare part doesn't necessarily mean there's a condition or an emergency taking place in order for you to prepare. Right now, at my home, we are preparing for summer. We're looking ahead a few months to try and get prepared for summer. What we're talking about today is a great example. At the end of summer, we should be ready for fall. Fall, we should be ready for winter. And the reasons for those things are, it takes time. So we decided that we were going to put this Prepare For together, Ready, Set, Go. And tonight I want to talk about the Prepare For. So I'm going to grab this out so I can look when I'm talking. So Prepare For, it's a time to look ahead to the next season or time frame that you establish within your unit, whatever it might be. It's beginning the process of developing a current plan. And why I say current plan is because we talk about emergency contacts. We have people that come and go, and sometimes they change phone numbers, sometimes we no longer associate with them, but we talk about preparing this plan, and in this plan having an emergency contact that lives on the other side of the mountains. And I can talk for hours, and Scott can too, about preparing. And so that's the kind of thing that we want you to do, is to look ahead and develop a current plan that's based on history, your current situation, or SME predictions, which are, again, subject matter experts, such as the National Weather Service. If they say it's really going to be dry this summer, I know we all like to make fun of the National Weather Service, but these guys get paid a lot of money and they go to a lot of school in order to do these weather predictions. So if the electrical company told me that we were going to have power outages, I would believe them. If the fire service told me we had fire danger, I would believe them. DNR. If law enforcement told me there were a group of bad guys, I would believe them. They're the subject matter experts. So Prepare For is also time to update and rotate or stock and/or your items in emergency kits such as clothing, food, medication especially. If your medication's changed, you need to change it in your kits. It's do it early to allow time for unexpected delays, the rush of seasonal goods or services, and earlier than predicted situations. It's hard to get a gardener in the middle of July. So, Prepare For. Why the number 4? Well, there's 4 seasons in the year. There's 4 times in a day. There's morning, afternoon, evening, and night. Have a plan, a go bag, a 72-hour car kit, be 2 weeks ready. There's 4 pieces to Prepare For, Ready, Set, Go. So you got to Prepare For, you're ready, you're set, you're go. And because I developed it, so I say so. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. We're going to be here afterwards if anybody wants to talk any further about preparing or Ready, Set, Go. and anything else that we do, which we come to lunch and learns, we go to businesses, we go to homeowners associations meetings, we come to, individual departments. And if you have a subject we would like to hear about it that you want to know more about, and we'll either get it or we'll present it. So with that, at this time I would like to introduce our guest speaker, which is Mark Titus with the Department of Natural Resources, who's come from Yakima. Thanks, Mark.
Hi, everybody. So, gosh, grab a microphone. It's been so long. I haven't held a microphone, and my mind went blank. Prepare for Ready, Set, Go. So I was up in Packwood last fall for a community meeting as that Goat Rocks fire was coming down the hill, and the emergency management director over there was talking about evacuations, and he said, when we say go, that means go. That doesn't mean do your laundry. That doesn't mean pack your medications. That doesn't mean, check the fridge or the freezer. That means you gotta go. And so I really commend Larry for bringing this up, because evacuations here will likely be important for people to be prepared for, ready, set, go. So I'm a community wildfire resilience coordinator. I work out of Yakima County. I've been doing this for quite some time, since the early 2000s. And I've also been an operational wildland firefighter, and I spent 5 years on a type 1 incident management team. So I've seen some stuff. And I've been the guy who's knocked on doors and told people they have to go. I've been the guy who's watched people in pickups with all they could grab in the 2 minutes that they had. And so you have a really unique opportunity to be ready for the inevitable. Does anybody remember here in the audience or out on the watching this recorded? You remember the Hollywood Hills fires? What, a couple years ago? Like, that was downtown, just about downtown LA. My mentor, Jack Cohen, who's going to be talking here in a second, he said to me, he said, would a shaded fuel break work? Well, let me just point out that that Woolsey fire just jumped 8 lanes of concrete and spotted over 8 lanes of concrete plus a median, right? So, and who remembers I think it was at Christmas or between Christmas and New Year's a few years back down in Colorado, right? Grass fire in the middle of winter, grass fire, and burned up, over 1,000 homes. So I bring those up because we're in the city of Longview, and you're thinking, wildfire in the city? Well, yeah, because we just had 2 examples or 3 examples I gave where other cities, big cities, bigger than, a lot more concrete in LA than here. So you're not, quote, out of the woods on this one. But the good news is there are things that you can do, and that's what I'm going to talk about. But I'm actually going to let my mentor, Jack Cohen, and that's the cue to get ready, tell you about it, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit more. So we're going to listen to Jack for 13 minutes. It'll have you riveted. Hopefully there's no commercials.
Uncontrolled, extreme wildfires are inevitable. These are the conditions when wildland-urban interface disasters occur. The hundreds to thousands of houses destroyed during a wildfire. Does that mean that the wildland-urban interface disasters are inevitable as well? No. We have great opportunities as homeowners to prevent our houses from igniting during wildfires. Most of our perceptions are that these big wildfires are something we can't do anything about. They're overwhelming. If huge organizations can't control the wildfire, how is it that somehow I can do something to my house to keep it from burning down? It's not a matter of controlling the wildfire, it's a matter of changing those conditions of the house and its immediate surroundings. There's a lot that we can do to the little things to our house and its immediate surroundings in order to reduce the ignition potential of that house. I'm going to do an assessment on this house for its ignition vulnerabilities. The assessment is what all of us homeowners can do. Currently, we're not in fire season, but it's getting hot and it's getting dry, so this is a perfect time before the smoke's in the air to do this assessment. The great opportunity we have as homeowners is that we can do the little things around our house to keep our home from igniting. We can actually separate our house from the extreme wildfire. We don't have to rely on the control of the extreme wildfire in order to keep our house from burning down. Over the last 30 years, my colleagues and I have done research involving laboratory experiments, field experiments, and post-fire disaster assessments to quantify and qualify the relationship between a wildfire and a destroyed home. What we found is that the high-intensity flames, more than 100 feet away from the house, are largely incapable of igniting the house directly. It's the little things that seem to be destroying the houses. The burning embers, we call them firebrands, lofted out of the high-intensity wildfire to land in the community, sometimes directly on houses as well as the surroundings. It's not 100-foot flames. It's a pile of firebrands that would fit in the palm of our hand. So my colleagues and I designed a firebrand, an ember shower demonstration. We have a full-size house. It's got bark mulch and pine needles around the base. It's got pine needles in the rain gutters. It's got pine needles on the roof. We have an ember generator that then casts a brand blizzard at this house. In order for those firebrands to be effective in igniting the house, they either have to ignite the house directly, or they have to ignite something around the house that then can spread to the house. The main factors determining this home's ignition potential are right here. The home's characteristics related to its immediate surroundings. For our assessment, our perspective changes to this house being one of fuel for the potential ignition. Look around your house and see where the litter, the leaves, and the needles have piled up, and visualize that that's going to be where firebrands begin to pile up and collect. So here we have pine needle litter right up next to the house. It's on the steps. It could ignite and start this wall and step area on fire. It also can ignite on this lathing, which is right up underneath the wood shingle siding, and ignite that. This doesn't burn with high intensities. It burns with low intensities, but it's extremely important. In fact, on this house, it easily could be the critical factor that leads to its total destruction. If this house had rain gutters, this litter would be in the rain gutters, potentially igniting and putting flame right up at the eave line, potentially igniting the roof and going into the attic. On this side of the house, what our attention should be on is this gable vent. It's the most exposed kind of vent. I noticed that it's got fine mesh screen, which certainly helps keep large firebrands from going into the attic and potentially igniting this house. One of the things we looked at were vents during the brand blizzard. The brands are directly impacting that vent opening. The burning brands can blow right into the attic and potentially ignite the material that's in the attic. The remedy is simple. All we have to do is use finer mesh screen to cover the openings. One of the important aspects that we demonstrated was that you don't have to have a metal roof in order to keep the house from igniting from firebrands. What we showed was that any roof that doesn't ignite and spread fire can survive the brand blizzard. So as we previously demonstrated, composition shingle roofs with pine needles on them don't represent a significant ignition problem. But look here, we've got a wood-sided wall coming down to the top of the roof where this needle deposition, when it ignites, is going to put flame contact right on the side of the wood wall. This results in flame contact and high ignition potential, resulting in the destruction of this house. The house includes more than just itself if there are outbuildings that are close enough to ignite and spread to the house. So maybe we have a shed or we've got a chicken coop, which then can burn long enough to ignite the shed that's next to that, which then ignites and burns sufficiently in order to ignite the house. So we need to be as concerned about the surroundings of our outbuildings and their condition as we do our house.
I looked into landscaping, I looked into fireproof home building, I looked into fireproof lawn furniture. I mean, I was going for everything that I could for the safest fire safety you could. And we had a checklist. No firewood stacked next to the house. All of our lawn furniture was fire rated. I wanted to feel like if there was a fire, we had the absolute best chance possible of us and our house surviving.
So some of the little things that begin to get a house during an extreme wildfire from the firebrands are, for example, something as simple as a broom being left out. Flammable deck furniture, where we've got flammable cushions on the furniture on the deck next to the house. The cushions ignite from the firebrands. They ignite the deck railing, which is connected to the house.
We put 3 foot of rock siding all the way around up the house, as well as in our landscaping 3 feet out of crushed rock. We talked to people. All it took was one thing, a firewood stacked in the wrong place, or lawn furniture caught fire on their porch. One tiny little technique that wasn't followed.
Well, knowledge is key. The more you know, the more you can increase your chances, and not always does that have to cost money, right? It's just knowledge. It's still a shock to go through a fire, but to come back and see your home, right? That's such a good feeling.
Flame contact on the house is a really bad idea. What we want to make sure of is that we don't get flame contact on the house. We don't have a fire burning across pine needle litter, for example, and making direct contact with the house. But that only takes 5 feet around the house in order to keep the flames away. Let's take a look at the surrounding area of the house. Adjacent to this wood wall, we've got these green shrubs. So the question is, are these green shrubs a big problem and do they have to be removed? Well, as long as we've got green foliage without dead material, we're pretty good. But if we take a look, we've got dead material in the canopy, and we've got dead material deposited under the wood wall. What we want to do to keep the shrubs is to prune out all the dead material within the canopy as well as underneath in order to keep the wall and the shrubs from igniting. So we don't need to put out all the fires. We don't need to make sure that no fire occurs within the neighborhood. We do need to make sure that there isn't high-intensity fire within 100 feet, and we want to make sure that surface fire doesn't come directly to the house and ignite it. We definitely can't have a flammable wood roof on our house. It's the most susceptible to firebrand ignitions. But there are many things that occur on a seasonal basis. Cleaning up the litter around the base of the house, out of the rain gutters, making sure that we've swept the deck of pine needle litter and leaves, and making sure that our firewood piles aren't on the deck, and making sure that we've cut the grass and not having things right up next to the house that can burn. We've just taken a look at this home, but it's obvious that every home and every property are going to be different. That's why it's very important for us to seek information so that we can find the vulnerabilities to ignition of our own homes. Remember, if your home doesn't ignite, it doesn't burn. You've got to act now to address these little things long before the fire ever starts.
Okay. So how come we're not like all just on fire right now? Anybody? I used to have a lighter in my pocket all the time because that's what I used to have, and so I'd hold the lighter and I'd ignite it, and I'd hold a piece of paper in this other hand. As long as the lighter and the paper don't ever touch, the paper's fine, right? So your house is the paper. You never want the lighter to touch your house. That's the key. That is literally the key. And so, another question, did you, that house that Jack walked around, that was actually, I think, somewhere in northeast, I think Virginia or something. And it was humid also, you could tell he was sweating. But couldn't that have been a house right up here in the hills? This house right there with the chicken coop and all that kind of stuff, right? So you all that are here and you all out there that are listening have this information now. And so the first thing to do is kind of let it absorb, right? You absorb it. And then when you go home and not tonight, but in the morning, because it's probably going to be dark. I don't know, maybe it's going to still be light out. Do a walk around the house. And don't look out there. Look at the house, right? Because if you look out here, it's too much. It's too much. It's overwhelming. There's just no way you can, you got neighbors, you got like the draw over there that's, got all the stuff that hasn't been cut or whatever for decades. You've got cars and trucks, and it's too much. Just look at the first 5 feet around the house. Now, he didn't say, you got to dig all that stuff up, did he? He didn't say that. He said, if you're going to have stuff within 5 feet of the house, make sure it's ignition resistant. And I know we have some master gardeners here after me talking, so he's going to maybe talk about some ignition resistant plants. But the key is you don't want it, like, wasn't that so staged though? He's like, but look right here, we've got all that was staged, I guarantee it. But if you go back home tonight or tomorrow morning and you look, all those leaves that fell last year that, it rained too soon and you didn't rake them up, they're still there. And if you don't rake them up now, they're going to still be there in 2 months and 3 months. And when they dry out again, they'll be very flammable. And so what did he say? Don't want flames to contact the house. Okay? So what happens if you take a 5-foot non-combustible zone, or if you're just absolutely have to have the shrubs and what have you, then just 2 or 3 times a season, go in there and rake all that stuff out. It's not staged for you. You'll find stuff in there that will burn. And that's what you want to get rid of. Now, you might say, well, I've got all these trees over my house and what have you. Well, I'll tell you what, if you took a propane torch, and some of these structure guys could back me up on this, if you took a propane torch and you held it up against a tree trunk, it's not gonna ignite. It's too dense. There's all kinds of factors there, right? So the tree itself is not the problem. What is the problem is all the stuff that comes out of the tree and lands in your gutters, or lands on that back stoop that you never go into, that's wood, or wood steps, or right up against the wood siding. So all those places, you have to be a detective now when you go home and say, what am I looking at that could easily ignite? And then remove that, okay? And then make sure that if it's within 5 feet of the house, it's irrigated so it stays green. That's another thing. And then look at the gutters. Unfortunately, if you've got gutters and you got trees over you, you've either got maple, probably around here, you got maple, you've got fir, you've got cedar. Now, that's going to fill your gutters. How many times a year do you clean your gutters? Going to need to do it a couple times a year. And that's that prepare for. So, and then the last thing to keep in mind is this. What could that possibly be? Be ready. Because if something does happen around here, you can imagine those roads are going to get congested and what have you. And what if they ask you to go, you're likely to go. Or what if you're not home? Like, what if you're at work and the fire, something happens, and so you're not even home, and you get back, and you get back at the end of the day or whatever, and the whole bunch of fire trucks and what have you, you can't go in. So you do have to be prepared, and that's what Larry's emphasis is with the prepare for, ready, set, go. And part of that preparedness is around your structure, and part of it is having stuff in your vehicle, a go bag, and what have you. So all of those things, who can do that for you? Can I do that for you? Can your neighbor? No. Each of you sitting here and each of you out there. It's really up to you to be prepared. If you're prepared, there's a lot more that we as firefighters can do on your behalf when when the incident comes. So I'm going to leave it at that. It's pretty self-explanatory. Your home can survive a wildfire if you want to watch it again. It's a great video. Show your neighbors, tell your friends, tell everybody about this, because it's not 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I used to do this kind of dog and pony thing, and I'd have to convince people that Western Washington has a fire issue, has a fire problem. Today, there's no doubt. Nakia down here, Packwood, the Goat Rocks. My God, that Packwood fire is still burning. Okay, like I'm going next week to Packwood to talk about the fact that the thing overwintered. Okay, West Side fire overwintered. My buddy up in northwest by King County, he was fighting fire until November. Till Thanksgiving last year on the west side. So there's no convincing needed anymore. It's up to you guys to help us, because we can't do it without you. And we know you can't do it without us. So let's work together. That's all I got. So, thank you.
All right, who wants to go next? Okay, this is Alice Dietz with the Cowlitz County PUD.
So I'm with Cowlitz County PUD, and Casey and I are kind of tackling this, talking about wildfire. We're public utilities, so we're not wildfire experts by any means, but it has been conversations happening in our across utilities. Obviously, I think we've learned some things from California, and In 2021 is when we finished our wildfire mitigation plan. Something I'm pleasantly hearing and seeing a trend is preparation and self-sustaining preparation. So really, that is some of our messaging, is that it is about you being the most prepared that you can be. And then we are wanting to message this out to our customers, just basically letting Cowlitz County know that Cowlitz PUD is prepared in the case of public power shutoffs, is what their public safety shutoffs, and having a plan in place. And it's not to freak our community out, but it's just to give you some basic tools and let you know that as your utility company, we are proactively working on these communications and plans to our community. Some advantages that Cowlitz PUD has, we wanted to go over. So a little comfort is 60% of our distribution infrastructure is already underground. We have 24/7 dispatch center with supervisory control. That's also known in industry-wide as SCADA. We have a very mature vegetation management program. We prune along circuits every 3 years. So about our vegetation management plan, we do have a vegetation management page on our website. So we highly recommend you utilize that. If you're seeing needs for vegetation management, you're able to put requests in there. It doesn't just have to be on your property, right? If you're seeing them around the area, if you're driving down a road. I have a 9-year-old son that's been very concerned with a branch that's been in some overhead line. So he'd like me to report that to the vegetation management page. So that is a tool, and you can easily go onto our webpage and just search that in our search engine. It's not that we don't have no risk, and wildfires obviously can cause significant damage, but Cowlitz County has been identified as a little lower risk for wildfire potential. So our Board of Commissioners approved the wildfire mitigation plan in November of 2021. And our 4 main goals for that plan is to implement an actionable plan to increase reliability and safety while reducing the likelihood of PUD assets becoming the origin or contributing factor for wildfire. We want to maintain a plan that prioritizes safety, situational awareness, mitigation methods, and recovery. Develop a plan that aligns with the utility best practices, competency, and risk mitigation activities, and continue to assess and incorporate new industry best practices, technologies, and risk mitigation activities. I know that Casey just participated in the workshop with Scott about wildfire mitigation. We have a lot of communication plans that are around utilizing other utilities, wildfire mitigation plans, learning from our neighbors. Something Casey and I were discussing is that we really try to get everybody to prepare for outages in the storm season. And really, we should be pushing that message out year-round. You should be prepared with a plan. Outages can happen in the summertime. They can happen in the springtime. And so having our customers be aware that there is potential for that, and to always be prepared year-round. And then just some of the mitigation strategies that have been contained in the plan is design and construction to improve system hardening to reduce contact between infrastructure and burnable fuel sources to minimize risk of PUD system becoming the source of ignition. I think that would be just like what we just learned, but along our infrastructure, not just pertaining to your home. Inspection and maintenance strategy consisting of diagnostic activities as well as various methods of maintaining and ensuring all equipment and infrastructure is in functional working condition. If I'm overstepping, you can tell me to zip it. But I mean, the PUD has just implemented a drone program, so it is able to go and assess our infrastructure. So hopefully in the future, that's something we can utilize. So continuing to invest in that type of infrastructure. Operational practices that are proactive day-to-day actions taken to mitigate wildfire risks and ensure preparedness in high-risk situations such as dry and windy conditions. So that has a lot to do with our communication too, and educating our customers on this is a again, be prepared, and we may be contacting you and wanting to get you as prepared as possible in case of an outage due to wildfire. And then situational and conditional awareness methods to improve system visualization and awareness of environmental conditions. We have the installation of multiple weather stations throughout our community, so constantly monitoring that and keeping an eye on what the weather is doing. And then response and recovery procedures and protocols for response to wildfires, the process of restoring power after a major outage, and the methods for efficient communications with emergency responders. This is something that we do year-round. It's something we do more during outage season, but it's definitely, again, just something we want to make our customers aware of, that it's going to be happening in the summertime as well, that type of communication. So we're with Cowlitz PUD. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say about that, but we're always open to reaching out. And again, we have some pretty great resources on our website, and our contact information is on there as well.
I just want to say, and I talk about this wherever I go, we are really, really fortunate. I've worked all across the country, and our public utility district is amazing. They are proactive, and when situations arise that can't be planned for, they are extremely reactive, and I'm just grateful, and I want to thank you guys for what you do, and appreciate that. So, and we are working together with them. Like Alice mentioned, Scott went with Casey over to class in Ellensburg, trying to learn more about how we can work together. Two of the things that I want to make sure that you are aware of, and that is, one, can we call you? There's some flyers at the back table, or you can go to our website, Cowlitz County, and under emergency management, there's a link for HyperReach, where you can sign up for emergency alerts from Cowlitz County Emergency Management. That's one. And two, our Facebook page. This is the way that we get out quick notifications. These are things that aren't necessarily life and death, maybe heads up. These are when you want to be ready, maybe could be looking at going to set, but once it gets to go, you're going to be hearing from either law enforcement or whoever they designate. The Cowlitz County Sheriff is the individual that has the authority to order evacuations. It is true you do not have to evacuate, but just know that if you choose not to, there is a chance that the emergency response agencies may not be able to help you in a timely manner. And it's absolutely a choice. We see it every year on the East Coast from hurricanes. We see it in Eastern Washington and Eastern Oregon. These guys have been around the country, a lot of them. Like Mark mentioned, he was on a Type 1 team, which is a national incident management team. James, you're on Type 2 state team. Scott is a liaison with the Type 1 team. I mean, we've got a lot of experts that have seen a lot of things around the country, and we've learned from those. And so we've brought those back, and we try to implement them here, what worked, what didn't work, to try and help you. Jennifer or Russ, did you want to speak? All right.
I think you should start. You're going to be much broader than I.
Okay, we're with the Master Gardener Program here in Cowlitz County. Oh, I hate those. Can you hear me now? We're master gardeners, so we're interested in plants, growing gardens and those kind of things, but it also includes your yard. And like Mark was talking about, what kind of vegetation you have around your house, how you manage that is the key to protecting your home. I was looking for resources that you could access to give you ideas on not only follow up with the things that were talked about here, but as far as home protection, but also plants that are fire resistant. And lo and behold, I found in my own library a fire resistant plants for home landscapes. It was written back in 2006, and it was cooperative with Oregon State University, Washington State University, University of Idaho, and it includes the Extension Service, which is Master Gardeners. Unfortunately, this particular book is not in print anymore, but it can be accessed online. And this is focuses on the Pacific Northwest, so that includes us. But I have these flyers for you you can take, and you can look this up online and download it if you want it. Also, though, tonight Mark brought me some books that DNR has come out, which is basically the same, almost the same as what we used to have. And it's the newest version. This one's for Eastern Washington, and a lot of the information is very appropriate here. But it has descriptions of what you can do around your house, but then it's got pages and pages of plants, ground covers, herbaceous, perennials, tall shrubs that are appropriate for around your home and are wildfire resistant. A lot of it is how you place it, how you maintain it, and just like what was talked about. I've got a few of these books available if anybody wants one. One other thing that I'm an old DNR retiree. I mean, I've almost been retired as long as I worked. But one of the projects I got involved in after I retired, which was in the early 2000s, was we had a Firewise, we called it Firewise back then, or you may remember. And we had a grant fund, and I was able to come back to work for about 3 years. And I spent my time in Cowlitz, Clark, and Skamania counties primarily visiting homeowner associations. There were a lot of homeowner associations that were in the 15 to 20 year age group then. And that's what I found was when you're homeowners association or your own home, it takes about 10 or 15 years before the vegetation starts growing in around your house. And we spent a lot of time, we were able to use inmate labor from Larch Mountain, and Cowlitz Fire 2 hired a crew, a small crew of 3 people and a brush wagon, and they had a chipper. So we would go into a homeowners association, gather everybody together, and they clean up, everyone cleaned up their yards, moved the debris out to the road, and we would chip it up for them. But I found the thing that stuck in my mind was these driveways were growing in and they weren't wide enough to get a fire engine down. So at that point it became a safety issue to me. I live in a homeowners association. My trees are that big now, and we spend a lot of time pruning our trees on the road just because we need to have fire access. So the fire can start from the wildland, move in, or the fire can start from your neighbor's house, moving over to your house. So the main thing is take these ideas and and put them to use.
I agree with him completely. So I'm Jennifer Mendoza. I'm a master gardener, and I'm also the Noxious Weeds Program Coordinator for Cowlitz County. So I'm wearing two hats tonight. But a couple of the plants that I wanted to make you aware of are two of our noxious weeds that are extremely flammable. So when we talk about fire fuels, if you have everyone's favorite noxious weed, Scotch broom, this plant is very high in oil content and can ignite much quicker than other plants. So when you're looking at the zone of keeping your property clear, the first 5 feet, might want to look a little bit further with Scotch broom because that one can ignite and cause hotter fires. So that one's very common throughout our county. Another very flammable plant is called gorse. We have had this in the county before. I know our neighbors up in Lewis County have this one, and it's even more flammable than Scotch broom. But what's interesting about these plants is the seeds can also withstand fire, and if a fire has come through, just like many other disturbances in a landscape, often what you'll have is noxious weeds coming up in the disturbed landscape. These seeds can survive high heat temperatures, and so when a fire does come through, often the vegetation that comes up could be a noxious weed. So hopefully you don't have a fire, but you may want to pay attention to what comes up after it if you do. And the master gardeners or myself can help you to identify those plants. Sometimes they will be native plants. There are a lot of native plants that are known to come in after a fire as an early successional species. So just kind of watch what happens in your landscape afterwards, and there maybe need to be a concern and maybe there's not. So one other thing I wanted to mention, a lot of people, if you're somebody who wants to do composting, I've not heard of a home compost pile catch on fire, but it could be a potential source because in the middle of your compost pile it tends to get pretty warm. One of my colleagues is telling me a story where there was a suspect on the loose and the police were using a heat sensing drone to try to find this suspect, and they swore they found him because there was a really hot spot on the ground. So they went and raided this backyard, and it was a compost pile. So yes, they are pretty warm. I would probably not keep your compost pile near your home. Maybe that 100-foot distance would be better. So those are my thoughts on plants and fire. So I hope it helps. And for those of you here, we do have, I have some Scotch broom fact sheets if you have it. And then you can also find those on our website. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else have anything they want to add? Okay, with that, I think this will end the presentation portion. I think it would be good if a couple of you, maybe Casey and Alice, stay right in your general area there. If you folks want to just kind of move over on the other side for the master gardeners. Fire service, if you want to stay in the back of the room to answer questions, and then DNR, if you folks want to maybe go out to one of the tables out there, and Scott, let's go to the table by the door, and if you folks have questions for any of us, please feel free. And again, thank you very much for coming. I hope it was worth your while, and we'll get this link posted, so if you think it was of value, you can tell your neighbors. So thank you very much. Thanks for coming.